course. So, I mean, for the workshop. There's Keenan.
Yeah. There's Keenan joining us now too.
There he is.
All right.
All right. Jump on in.
Keenan, you good? We'll get started. All right. So my name is Neil McNabb. I'm going to be your heading up the workshop today. I'm primarily from a soccer background. Played professional soccer and been coaching for the last 15 years or so. I've been fortunate enough to be part of a couple of national championship teams and coached all ages of kids from 4 to 18. I'm a USSF instructor also. And really, for me, I went through kind of that aha moment about a little over 8-9 years ago now when I had kids of my own and been out there coaching. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at the staff that I'm working with, and I'm now saying to myself, wow, these are some really interesting characters, these coaches that are working for me, and would I allow my child to play for them? And I got to be honest with you, the answer was no. And that was, my son just turned 8, and I'm pleased to tell you now that the organization that I run, I would say yes. And that actually has nothing to do with their ability or their knowledge of the game. It has everything to do with the type of people that they are and the type of people that I want my child around. And really, the second aha moment came for me. I've been primarily in soccer. And the second aha moment came when my children started playing sports. And so now I'm pleased to tell you that I am a basketball dad, I'm a dance dad, and a pageant dad. And I wanted to ask you guys in the room, has anybody here coached something that's other than soccer? Do we have any basketball coaches in the room? Do we have any lacrosse coaches in the room? Because I'm going to need to get with you guys at the end because I know little about those sports, but I do know how to handle and work with children. So, being that volunteer coach in a sport that you know nothing about can be very daunting. So hopefully we'll learn a lot from each other today, and we'll move on to the workshop. So what I want to do first is an interactive workshop. I want you guys to text the number 50, hashtag 50. If you're below 30, it's the hashtag. If you're over 30, it's a $. Go ahead and text that. No spaces. Put to the number listed on the screen here. And then I want you guys to list your first name and your last name and your email address. Once you do that, you're going to get credit for attending the workshop today. You'll get a certificate. You can print it. You can frame it. I like to hang mine in the bathroom. Everybody around my house has to use the bathroom at some point. We're going to get a chance to see the certificate that we're double goal coaches. So if you guys have, while I've been rambling on there, if you could just let me know that you did it, just raise your arm. I already signed in. I got that taken care of. Terrific. And then we'll move on to today's workshop. So today we're going to be covering the double goal coach, teaching life lessons and also winning and teaching life lessons, most importantly the life lessons. And we will, well, who are we? Who's PCA? Has anybody heard of PCA before? Anybody new to PCA? I was you guys about a year and a half ago. I had never been to a workshop. I didn't know what PCA was, and I'm sitting in your position. Positive Coaching Alliance was started 20 years ago at Stanford University. They now, look at the stats on the board here, but 80,000 coaches trained, 3.3 million youth reached, 25 workshops, 2,500 workshops, and 1,000 website hits. Those numbers are annual. So that shows how big the PCA is, and it's growing. There's many chapters all over the country. So positive coaching, what does that mean to you guys? So what does that phrase mean to you, to be a positive coach? I just want to ask the group and maybe get a response from each of you. Give me one or two words, what a positive coach means to you. Who wants to go first?
Role model.
Role model. Great. Love it, Keenan. What have you got, Kelly?
I just think somebody that's encouraging and really cares about the kids.
Role model, encouraging. What about you, Ruben?
Yeah, focusing on what's being done well as opposed to getting obsessed with what's not being done well.
Absolutely. And Scott, what does that mean to you?
Listening.
Listening. Yeah, very important.
Or being aware of the players, I guess.
Being aware of
ideas or something.
Absolutely. So, at PCA, we want to create an atmosphere that best supports the best possible performance. And, you know, none of you guys said, when we talked about positive coach, nobody said winning. But winning is important, and we are aiming to win as well. So PCA is not just a feel good, everybody, you know, gets a trophy at the end of it. This is about being the best that the athletes can be. And we're going to talk about the power of positive, the power of positivity. And, you know, here's a great quote from PCA National Advisory Board member, Dr. Barbara Fredrickson, University of North Carolina. She talks about how much more impactful that being positive is. That, you know, it's the old habit of being negative. Now it actually doesn't work. Being positive is what works. And she goes on to add that it's what our leaders do. It starts with us, and being the coach of a team, you're the leader of that team or group, and it starts with you guys. Goes further. There's a Sports Illustrated article from 2015 where we talked about the last days of the abusive coach. But those days are coming to an end. I think our parents demand more now than they did. They're becoming more self-aware. There's more things available to them, and that a great article about the power of positivity. So, you know, it's not just, don't just take it from me, but take it from the elite coaches that are out there. Take a look at these guys. You know, Julie Foudy, when I first took this course, Julie Foudy is the one that stuck out to me because, well, she's in soccer. But if you look at these guys and Doc Rivers and Brad Stevens, these guys don't have a problem with winning, and they've won a lot. And these guys are behind it. They want this experience to be for their children and grandchildren. They are part of the National Advisory Board members, so they're putting their names to it. And you've got people that are you know, made a living out of winning in sports, putting their name behind what it means to be a positive coach. So we've talked a little bit about positivity. I think it's important to at least acknowledge that negativity does exist. And what does it do? What are the effects of negativity out there? What does that mean? We've got a couple more of our National Advisory Board members here, Dr. Charlie Mayer and Dr. Ken Ravisa, and they talk about that negativity distracts you from the next play. It takes your mind off of the game. So in any sport, the most important play of the game is the next one that you're going to be involved with. And so we don't want to distract the athletes. We don't want to take them away from that mindset. So with all that, and we've hit you quite hard very quickly with tons of information, do you agree? You know, just raise your arm. Do you agree that positivity works and that negativity distracts? You know, I agree. And I was that negative coach back way then and yelled at kids and had to come full circle. And it's okay if this is an aha moment for you guys as well. So, okay, we agree to this. We're behind it. So why so much negativity still in sports? Throw something out at me. Go on. What do we got? Why is there so much negativity still?
Well, I think a lot of us parent the way we were parented. We coach the way we were coached. Yeah. So I think maybe we're just doing it the way that we've seen our own coaches do it 10, 25, in Kelly's case, 50 years ago, you know, so.
Neil, I think that one thing that has changed is that parents are more acutely aware of who is supervising their child at a given time. I know when I was a kid, I used to, you know, oh, hey, we'll see, you know, go outside, we'll see you in 6 hours. And now it's, you know, parents want to know who's in charge of their kid every minute of every day. So that hyper awareness, I think, plays into it.
I think it is, but sometimes parents are hyper aware that whether a coach is yelling, they think that yelling is coaching. Mm-hmm. And because they're saying something, and sometimes a quiet coach, you know, they might not be able to hear them from across the field. So we actually did a perception piece with some parents. We took a study group at our club and had a coach on the sideline and stand very quietly and talk like I'm talking to you guys. And the parents couldn't hear him. They thought he wasn't coaching. And then we actually did a loud coach who was yelling and screaming. We said, well, actually, the coach that was quiet was doing better. And we'll get into coaches narrating behavior later in the course, but you know, it's important to note that. So Scott, anything you want to add on why it's negative?
I think a lot of parents I don't know, somehow are living vicariously through their kids, or the kids, their success is a measure of their parenthood or something, something along that line.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it. Gives that place in society, right? Doesn't
Right.
it? If that child's successful, look at us, we must be great parents. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, and actually has nothing to do with it, right? So, well, anyway, so we know there's so much negativity, and one of the reasons is because there's not as much training for coaches as there is to let you guys know how to be positive coaches. I think we've got people that want to be positive, but they don't know how to be positive coaches. So, PCA's vision is to use the best sports psychology and research around and use best practices to create the essentially better athletes, better people. That is our motto that we live with. It's easy to remember: better athletes, better people. And so we use that research, and we want to create the best opportunities for the kids, and for you guys to know that there's tons of support out there. So there's the research-based coaching that we've got. There is the practical tools that we've got, and then there's ongoing support. So if you come in here today and you're a basketball coach and say, well, that guy knows nothing about basketball, which may be true, you've got this book that you leave here with that you can take away. And there is also weekly emails that can be sent out to you as long as you put your email address in correctly. You should have, because you got that text back saying you're at the course today, the workshop today. And then you've also got access to the website. So there's tons of ongoing support. And of course, before you leave here, I make sure if you've got my cell numbers, you can call me. And that way we'll build a rapport, and we're here to help. And I've ran classes in the past where coaches have reached out to me a season later, 2 seasons later, with a question. And once you're in part of that brotherhood of positive coaches, you're part of it. And so that's what we're trying to do. So what I'd like for you to do now, just turn to the person next to you. We'll just take 30 seconds or so. What makes a great youth sports experience for kids? What are the things that make it a wonderful experience for the children? Just 30 seconds, ready, and go. And this is where
We're chit-chatting.
you're really good at faking the sideways. And, I walk around and I'm listening to you guys. So everything that you just went through there, and we'll move on. Everything that you just said to each other there would fall into one of 3 buckets. One of 3 buckets. They would fall into whether the children feel that they're connected to their team, to their sport, to their coach. They would feel, are they improving? Are they getting better? Are they learning? And they would also feel, are they playing with a sense of integrity? And, when you look at our model of those 3 things, if those 3 things were filling those 3 buckets, what do you think the type of experience the kids would have?
I think it'd be a great one. I think all the kids would stay in it. They'd come back next year.
Yeah, they'd stay in it. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
We keep children involved in sports. Sorry, Ruben.
I was just going to say, Kelly said it. They'd have more fun. They'd enjoy it more. I actually think they'd play a lot better too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they're having fun, they can improve. They're playing with a sense of integrity and learning those life lessons. They feel good about themselves. A player that feels good about themselves is likely to put more effort into it. So then we have that upward spiral of development. Once it gets negative, we go that downward spiral, and 75% of children are out of sports by age 13 altogether. That's staggering. So we at PCA, we have the 3 buckets, but they also translate to 3 principles. So we have 3 principles. One covers being connected. That is our emotional tank. The second is about improving. That's the elm tree of mastery. And the third is integrity, and that's how we honor the game. And we're going to get into all of those here in a little bit. But before we do, I want you to just listen to a short video by Herm Edwards. He's a former NFL head coach. He's also part of our advisory board. And I just want you to listen to what he's got to say about understanding your legacy as a coach. You want me to skip on? Yeah.
You can. That's fine. Yep.
I think we've all watched that video. Those was on the call anyway. But I love it. I absolutely love what he's talking about here. And when the book of your life is written, what will it say about you? Just turn to the person next to you just for say one thing each to that person. How do you want to be remembered as a coach? And go. And 6 or 7 seconds, and boom, and stop. Okay, I'm hearing things like a fun coach. I'm hearing things like a coach that cares, a compassionate coach. You know, I read a really good book that was recommended to me by another PCA trainer called Season of Life by Jeffrey Marks. And in that book, it talks about, asks Joe Ehrman about his current football team that he's working with. And it says, how's the team looking this year, Joe? And he goes, I don't know. You'll have to ask me in 20 years. And I absolutely love that quote, because how we do this season has, you know, yeah, we want to do our best and win on the scoreboard, but how these kids turn out in the long run, that's our success. That's our legacy as coaches. You know, when you run into the grocery store and a kid comes up to you and they say, boom, hey, coach, great to see you. That means so much more than any goal they may have scored for you or any dunk that they may have had. If they're dunking and they're on the under-6 basketball team, you're doing pretty well. So, PCA's model, double go coach. We believe that every coach at PCA is striving to be a double goal coach. They're striving to win on the scoreboard and, more importantly, striving to teach life lessons. And when you try to do those two things, there are so many teachable moments within the game. And so what I want you guys, and just shout them out at me, what are the types of life lessons that you can get from playing sports?
Making friends.
Friends, absolutely.
Resilience.
Resilience, yeah. The ability to struggle, right?
Teamwork.
What else?
Teamwork,
Cooperation.
commitment,
Yeah.
work ethic,
Working with authority.
Working with authority, yeah.
Pushing yourself
sportsmanship.
when you want to quit.
Yeah, absolutely. So many great life lessons. And, you know, the best thing about this, the best thing about a double goal coach is that these two things are not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. If you are pushing as hard as you can to win on the scoreboard and learning life lessons, these two things go hand in hand. They make a better athlete. They make a better person, which is our vision and our goal. They're not, you can't, it's not, well, we're trying to win or we're trying to teach life lessons. We're going to do both at the same time. And that those go hand in hand. They make the athlete better as a competitor and as a person in the long run. So, you know, here we go. We're going to dive straight into our 3 principles. The first one is fill in the emotional tank, and we'll go straight on into it.
All right. Thank you, Neil.
Cool.
How'd you feel doing that? You look very comfortable.
I was pretty nervous today. Mostly, I've been practicing to myself, and I don't get very good feedback when I do that. But no, yeah, it's just kind of getting the thoughts in order, and then, you know,
Yeah.
where I think I'm struggling the most right now is just a little lack of experience in knowing which slide's coming next. I'd like to do less of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you right off the bat, I thought you were very smooth and your pace was spot on. I thought you were excellent. I mean, you seemed very, very well prepared moving through everything. I have a ton of positive comments for you. Lots of things I liked. I'd love to hear from Keenan and Ruben, even Scott. You can chime in. I'd love to hear what you like most about what Neil did. And then if you have any suggestions for him moving forward as he translates this format into a live workshop, what are some suggestions you might have for him? So Keenan, you want to start us off?
Yeah, Neil, I was Kelly. You took the first thing I was going to say. You looked really comfortable there. I would not have thought that you were nervous at all. I mean, I haven't seen quite as many of these as Kelly and Ruben have, but they've seen some pretty nervous individuals, and you were not one of them. So your feedback that you're getting from yourself must be pretty good. Your one thing that, and I think this is common for all new trainers, is there's a reliance on the PCA information when just as important in a workshop is your stories, your background, your experience. You've been coaching for almost 2 decades. You're involved with the Soccer Federation. You run a successful, youth soccer club there in Atlanta. I mean, you have the requisite experience, and the best way to communicate these principles is through your successes and failures with them personally. So never hesitate to talk about yourself. Give yourself that credibility. You kind of glossed over that you've worked with the federation and that you've been running this club successfully for a long time. Don't do that. It helps establish credibility, and your story, it makes your stories very, very relevant to those coaches in the room, some of which are striving to get to the level that you've achieved at this point. Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah. So I just want to add to that. I thought that Neil, you did that in your intro. You brought your personal experience.
Yeah.
When you started coaching, and then when you became a sports parent. And I hear what Keenan's saying, and I really like what you're doing, Neil. So but my suggestion would be in each section, like in this opening section after the intro. The intros, I got that separate. In the opening section, one anecdote from your club, from your, and then when you get to E-Tank, work in one personal example, because don't hesitate. And at the same time, I've seen that overdone too. You're far from overdoing it, and I like the advice that Keenan's giving you. But boy, I wouldn't change too much.
I think, Ruben, I think you're right. I think it becomes more relevant as you dive into the principles themselves. It's less so in the intro. It's more about the establishment of credibility. But having a story about how the 5-to-1 ratio has worked for you, or how you've been able to focus on mastery versus the scoreboard, that kind of thing. So just don't hesitate to do those kinds of things, because I think they really add to the workshop.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on that, and I hate for us all to jump in. I like one person to go at a time. But if I were to pick a story that I would like you to say in the beginning, you mentioned very quickly that you were a negative coach that yelled at kids a lot. And I would like to hear more about that, Neil. I'd like to hear more about where you were and where you've come now and what you've learned from it. I think that's a great story in the beginning, because you're going to have a lot of coaches sitting in the room that are screaming and yelling at kids because they don't have another way. So for you to be vulnerable enough to say, that's how I coach, that's how I thought it was done, and here's where I am now, and this is why, and this is the result that I've seen in the players from being more positive. I get more out of them. I'm having more fun. I think that's where a good story from your experience comes in. As an athlete as well, you can bring up, obviously you were an athlete in a different part of the world. That's interesting to me to hear about a little bit about that too. So, all right. Thanks, Keenan. Did you have anything else to add?
No, Neil, from when and I've known Neil now for, the better part of a year and a half. And to go from, just doing a couple of workshops to have gotten to this point, it's been fun to watch. So congrats, Neil. That was great.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Scott, what about you coming in? Go ahead,
another neophyte or new person's perspective. One, like, I wouldn't have known that you were just starting this.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like you really knew the stuff and you were very comfortable with it. And two, sort of piggybacking on what Ruben and Keenan are saying, I really liked when you were talking about your own sort of research where you had the coach yell and the coach not yell, that story, because then to me, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Like I should try that, or with my groups. And again, like Keenan was saying, that sort of makes it feel like you are not just giving the information out, but like you're involved in figuring it out, if that makes sense. I thought that was really good. But overall too, I'm not a trainer yet and don't have the experience of these guys, but I thought you were very comfortable with it, and was surprised that, you're in the same situation as I am.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Ruben, you're on mute. Yeah, there you go.
I thought it was really strong. I thought it was really strong. I thought the intro was great. It was the right amount of time. I thought good, just set the stage very nicely. transitions. You said you wish you knew the slides better. Gosh, I thought your transitions from one slide to the next were smooth.
Yeah.
And Kelly mentioned your pace. You covered everything completely with lots of interactivity in a, and you did it in a nice amount of time. You sprinkled the interactivity throughout, so it wasn't like, okay, lots of interactivity here and then 10 minutes of you talking. It was just lots of interactivity sprinkled in. You're very poised, Neil, very poised. So whatever nervousness you felt, none of us would have guessed. I'll throw out two ideas for you to consider. One is when you refer to PCA, to consider using we as opposed to they. You're part of the organization now. And certainly as a certified trainer, you're a key part of the organization. So, yeah, I think that point is clear. And then, eventually, Neil, as you do the full workshop, that poised, smooth demeanor and affect, look for spots to change it up a little bit. Look for spots to raise your voice and to yell and scream and and certainly laugh. But changing that up just a little bit, just enough over the course of the whole workshop, I think will be helpful.
Great.
We'll add all the more to what you're already doing so well.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't have much else to add besides just looking through a couple comments I thought were really strong points. I love your sense of humor, how you just sprinkle that in. I think that's really cool the way that you do that. Your pace was excellent. I think, this is a lot of information and you did it so succinctly and you just had just the right amount of time, and I'm ready to jump into the principles. I think sometimes people draw on so much in the introduction, and that's not what it's meant for. I always say it's kind of like a movie trailer. Like, you want to keep them wanting more. Don't give us everything. And I thought you did a really nice job at keeping it flowing. The value of winning, you hit that hard. I thought that was great. I like the way you talked about parents demanding more of coaches these days. Instead of saying like, oh, the old way was yelling and the new way. I mean, parents are more demanding, as Keenan even brought up. And parents do demand more of coaches. And that's a big reason that positive coaching is being so successful. I think that was great. The perception piece, I agree with Scott when you were talking about that. Like, tell me more about that. When you say something and I want to hear more, like you went on to the next topic and I was like, wait, that's super cool that you did that. I mean, and that you did that because you run a club. Yeah. I'm a youth lacrosse coach. I'm not going to pull out these experiments with my coaches, but I'd love to. And I would just like to hear a little bit more about that, because that's super interesting. And the perception that the parents had for that. So I thought that was great too. The one terminology piece that I've put into a lot of my workshops is that positive coaches are passionate and they are demanding, but they're not demeaning. And I think that's something that I think sometimes people think that positive coaching means, I can't yell. And if you ever saw me on the sidelines, I'm probably one of those positive coaches and I'm screaming my head off the whole time. I mean, that's the passion, that's the excitement. And I demand that my players do what I expect of them and work hard, but I'm not going to rip them apart. So that's just kind of a phraseology that I've adopted. I like how you said it's a brotherhood. A word you might want to flip in there is it's an alliance. We are an alliance. And that's the point of the alliance, is that we're here to support each other. We're here to support you, just to throw another word in there. I like the way you transition from the 3 buckets to the 3 principles. I thought that was super easy to understand, really, really clear. And I like the way you did that. Also bringing in the Seasons of Life book. I love that book. We use a lot of Joe Ehrman quotes. We have a lot of Joe Ehrman videos in our workshops. So I love bringing that in. And I think, again, that's a great way to have coaches think long-term. And I've even gone so far as to ask the coaches to write it in the cover of the book. How do you want to be remembered? And then share it with a partner like you did. But to have that written down somewhere so that they can actually refer back to it when they've had a really crappy practice and looked at that going, is that the kind of coach I really want to be today? Not really. So another thought for you. The double goal coach model, not being mutually exclusive. Again, very solid point. That's a great point to make. And I think you hit it just enough to make me be intrigued. Like, oh, you're right. Some coaches do choose winning over life lessons. And when you said it's not winning or life lessons, I thought you hit that really well too. So you did exactly what the introduction's meant to do. You've got me wanting more. And I'm excited. I don't really feel like you need to do 2 more demos. I would love to see you jump in and do a demonstration of one of the principles, just to see what you do with one of the principles. But if you'd like to do a practice session before the final, that's fine. But I feel like you have enough skills. I would just love to see what you do with one of the principles. And then, we want to get you out there as soon as we can.
Yeah. I know it's still growing in Atlanta, so.
It is, but I think Keenan's probably ready for you.
Yep. Fast and furious.
Yes. Awesome. They're coming quickly. They're coming soon, and August is right around the corner, and that's our busiest month. So, so as soon as, I think we do have you scheduled already for Friday, right? Yes. Yeah. So on Friday, if you just want to pick one of the principles to do, that can be your final, and then we'll go from there.
Do I need to do the intro? It would be like quick intro again, and then principle.
Yep. Just jump into how would you handle one of the principles with the explanation of the principle, scenario, connecting it to the coaches, and then the tools. Because the tools are the most valuable part of our workshop. The coaches come in, I mean, it is a consumer mentality. They come into these workshops like, what's in this for me? What can I do? Yeah, exactly. So we do want to hit the tools hard, but the idea of the principle is giving them a little bit of background and research, then connecting it to themselves through a scenario. And then here are the tools we're giving you to take out to your own team.
Cool.
So I would just love to see how you handle that.
Kelly, can I ask? You've given Neil some things to think about for the next demo. Based on the feedback you received, Neil, and none of us will be offended if you don't pick our piece of feedback. But based on the feedback you received from all of us, if there was one thing that you would want to add to enhance for your next demo, what do you think that might be? And I know you haven't had a chance to process it all, but anything stand out?
Certainly just using the word we instead of they.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's one of the ones for me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm confident you'll do that. That's very doable, isn't it?
Well, it's such a simple change, but it's a very impactful change.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm connecting myself to the audience, to the material. To, the same way that when you're talking to coaches and you use the word and instead of but.
Yeah.
So those one word changes are often the key.
Okay.
You're one of us now, Neil. Don't hesitate.
I'm just doing it for the shirt.
we do have some pretty cool swag. I'll give you that.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you also for joining.
Thank you.
Let me know when you're ready to go.
Okay, I will. It's weird, vacation times and stuff, but if there's some time next week, I'll send you some dates. But Neil, thank you. It's good for me to see, it's helpful for you to be the sacrificial lamb. Now I know what to do.
When you get thrown to the wolves.
Exactly, and I'm going to say we. I'm going to say we.
There you go.
Kelly,
right.
Kelly, before
Scott.
actually, I just wanted to throw this out there just because I was looking at the schedule. We do have a Double O Coach 1 workshop coming up in Atlanta on July 12th. I don't know if we've thrown that by Neil, but it's with the Braves. It's at SunTrust Park. I don't know if you're around, Neil, but given that we're not quite at the volume of a normal chapter yet, it's a good opportunity coming around the corner.
Actually, it's Alabama with Georgia ODP.
Oh, okay. No problem. I
did respond about watching a workshop on the 10th of July.
Yes.
Oh, okay. With the Hawks?
I think that one was...
I think it's at a Boys and Girls Club, but we're doing it for the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
That would be a good observation as well, the 10th. Okay. Just want to throw that out there since it's few and far between in Atlanta right now.
One of the things Kelly threw at me is actually our own one. Because we have
did I?
yeah, Chiefs is that's Neil's, and I think that's September 21st, right, Neil? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, every 2 weeks I send out the workshops that are coming up, Keenan. So if there's any others that pop up in between then, keep them coming.
I'll have some more coming up in August in Atlanta for sure, so we'll get you out.
Wonderful.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us, guys.
I want to add my thank you to Scott for making the time to observe and sit in and learn and be prepared for his. Really appreciate that, Scott.
Yeah, no worries. I wouldn't want to have it with just nobody. I'm not that you're nobody.
Thanks.
I could just see like it happens. Ruben's got to run out and do something. And there's just Kelly and you're trying to do it to an audience of one person, you know, like, I wouldn't want to be there, but. So.
All right,
well,
guys.
thank you very much,
Okay,
guys.
thank you, guys.
Thank you.